Russia's President Vladimir Putin says his call-up target of 300,000 conscripts for his war in Ukraine will be reached within 2 weeks. He said more than 220,000 had already been mobilised, with 16,000 already engaged in fighting. He denied his objective was ending the existence of Ukraine as a nation. Meanwhile, President Biden has authorized the release of another $725 million worth of military aid for Ukraine. It brings the total US assistance to more than $17 billion. Saudi Arabia has also announced a further $400 million in aid following a telephone conversation between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President Zelensky. Well, let's stick with Ukraine now, and the exact death toll from the war in the country is of course unknown, but thousands are believed to have been killed. Many more have been forced from their homes, seeking safety where they can. The BBC's Tim Allman reports now on one family in the eastern city of Kharkiv who've had their lives turned upside down.
Xenia is 6 months old, and this bomb shelter is the only home he's ever known. His mother was 7 months pregnant when the war began, and the family fled here as the Russian invasion got underway. They tried to make the best of things, living as normal a life as possible, but it's not easy.
Today, as soon as we left the shelter to go to the clinic, there was an air raid alarm, so we turned back and went downstairs straight away. 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a blast which shattered all the windows in this building.
Kharkiv bears the scars of war. Buildings and vehicles burned out, a city living on the edge. This was where the Shevchenko family used to live, in the village of Prudyanka, just north of Kharkiv. Their home almost derelict, and they've no plans to rush back.
We will surely spend winter here because we've nowhere else to go, nowhere to stay. We're not going back home because, first of all, in order to rebuild it, clean it all, it's not a job for one day.
Xenia and his family are just one of countless families trying to survive in a country at war. His parents hoping the future will be much better than the months just past. Tim Allman, BBC News.
Russian forces are continuing to lose ground in much of Ukraine, but they are making slow progress in their attempt to take the city of Bakhmut in the Donbas region.
The city, once home to more than 70,000 people, has been under constant artillery bombardment. Our defence correspondent Jonathan Beale went to meet some of those who are still there and the Ukrainian troops who are resisting the Russian advance.
Russian forces are inching ever closer to the city of Bakhmut. The centre now reverberating with the sound of constant shelling. 70% of the population have already fled, and each day more are leaving. You're trying to leave? Among them, Alina, who's packed all she can carry.
It's very hard when you're almost 70 years old and you have to go through all this. You need to squat over the fire to cook food. You need to carry buckets of water to your apartment. It's so hard. I curse the one who started this war. I curse him 100 times.
Elena prays that one day she'll return. She's not alone, though, in looking for divine intervention. So is this Russian soldier taking part in the assault. Recent Ukrainian drone footage shows the ferocity of the battle, but the Russians are still closing in. Bakhmut is one of the few places where Russia is on the advance. Incremental, small gains and constant bombardment that you can hear all the time. They're trying desperately to change the narrative here and the reality that most Russian forces in Ukraine are on the retreat. This is the image of Russia's army that Ukraine wants to show the world. A graveyard of tanks, armour and even aircraft destroyed in its advance further north. But even Ukrainian commanders admit this war still hangs in the balance, with Russia calling up more troops.
It depends on how many they'll be able to mobilize and the quality of those troops. So far we are seeing they are of poor quality and they don't have enough weapons.
There's another graveyard in nearby liberated Liman. At this one, they're digging up the remains of up to 200 civilians and soldiers buried during Russia's brief occupation. Forensic experts still looking for any evidence of torture. This war is proving costly for Ukraine too. Jonathan Beale, BBC News, the Donbas.